Hey, I'm Claire. Thanks for joining me today for this quick walkthrough of Orchestral Tools' new string library, Benjamin Wallfisch Strings. Now, a quick disclaimer in case you're new to this channel. My name's Claire Wicks and I do actually work for Orchestral Tools as a composer and creator, but all thoughts on here are my own honest opinions, of course. So this new string library is a collaboration with the composer Benjamin Wallfisch, and I'm really excited about this because he and Orchestral Tools both wanted to create something completely different and quite a few features that haven't been in any previous string libraries to my knowledge. So I thought before I dig into what's in the box, I'm going to play you the official demo I wrote for this so you can get an idea of how the library works when it's played as a whole. Here it is. So now you've had a listen to what the library can sound like when everything's played together, let's have a look at what's actually included. Now, important to say that this library actually comes in a bundle with another Benjamin Wallfisch library, Stringscapes. Now, I'm not going to be looking at that today because there's just so much to cover, but Stringscapes is more geared towards sound design and atmospheric sounds, a lot of special effects. Whereas Benjamin Wallfisch Strings is the traditional string sections. So if we open this up, you can see you've got your 5 string sections, and let's just have a look in violins 1 to start. So firstly, you've got your tutti section, that's 14 players, so these are huge sections. And as you'd expect, you've got your legatos and then your marcatos, staccatos, spiccatos, pizzicatos, tremolos and trills. But the really interesting thing about the legatos is that in these sustains we have down bow and up bow. Now, for anyone who's not a string player, I'll just quickly explain the difference between those two things. A down bow is, say if this is your violin, when the bow moves in that direction. Up bow is the opposite, as you'd expect. But the difference in sound between them is that maybe the down bow is a bit heavier, it has the weight of the arm behind it, whereas an up bow can be lighter. So maybe you'd often do an upbeat as an up bow. As someone who plays in orchestras myself, I can't tell you how many times that as a wind player, I've sat there for 10 minutes at a time just listening to string players discuss different bowing options with the conductor. So it really is an important thing. And as far as I know, this is the first time that a sample library has actually separated those two different effects and given you the option of which one you want to use. So here are some of the down bows with legato. And for comparison, here are some of the up bows. So the actual legato has a slightly different quality between the down bow and the up bow. And of course, because you have the option, then you can always play around with it and use whichever one suits. Now, on this library, it is possible to do something which is actually not realistic, which is essentially what I've just done, an endless up bow or an endless down bow. But if you wanted to be a bit more true to life, what I would personally do is be switching between the down bows and the up bows. So obviously, if you're actually composing something rather than just improvising, you can really dig into how the up bow and the down bow are going to match the phrasing, and there's so many options. Just whilst we're on the sustains, another thing to note with this library is that there are no loops. So usually in a sample library, in a long note, at some point they'd find a nice fade over and essentially the note would repeat. But instead what they've done here is actually get full sections to sustain notes for a very long time. I've certainly not had a problem when writing with not having them long enough, but there's no loop point. So you actually get authentic bow changes within a sustain note like a string section would play. So of course they can't just go on forever. So here are some of the down bow sustains. So to me, there's a really nice texture in the sound. It never sounds like a synth playing because you do actually have that movement even within a sustained note. So quickly racing through other articulations, you've got your marcatos. You've got staccatos. So hopefully you can hear that they're really playable. They've got slightly different length. If you play really softly, it's quite a short bow stroke. Whereas if you play more strongly, then you get this more weighty bow stroke. I think that makes it a bit more realistic because as you're playing with different velocities, you do get this natural variation in the length of the bow stroke, which is actually how a string section would play. Similar thing for the spiccatos. To me, those are actually proper spiccatos. I think sometimes spiccatos used as a word in sample libraries just for a short staccato, but actually spiccato is a specific bow technique of kind of almost close to hitting the bow on the string, really not a stroke with any length at all. And to me, that sounds like a true spiccato. And again, you've got that slight variation in length of stroke when it's either soft or loud. Pizzicatos, tremolos and trills, I'll show you them with some of the violas. Your tremolos. And I really love these trills as well. And of course you've got the option for a semitone or a whole tone for your trills. So looking next at the other thing that is really, really interesting and unique about this library is that we've got our first violins tutti, but we've also got first violins A and B. Each of those are split into 7 players each. So we have an authentic Divisi section. Now this is what I was talking about when I said there's a couple of things that I don't think have been done before, to my knowledge, in a sample library. And having a Divisi that's actually recorded in situ with these separate players, I think is completely unique. So what you've got with your Divisi is the option for both those down bow and up bow legato. So you've got all of your longs in Divisi sections. So there are loads of reasons that you might want to use a Divisi section. For me, I find when I'm string arranging, I'm kind of greedy. I can very rarely actually limit myself to just the 5 string sections, your first, second violins, your violas, celli and basses. So I quite often will use a Divisi line already. But in the past, if I'm programming that, then I've essentially just been having to add 2 whole sections of first violins and then maybe try and adjust the volume accordingly. But then you're not actually getting an authentic representation of what half of that section sounds like. And what you're getting here is not only what that half a section sounds like, but they are sitting in the chairs they'd be sitting in. So all of the mic positions correspond to the literal positions of those half sections in the room. So if you put that all together, you can get 10 full string parts because we've got this on all of our sections. Of course, you've always got the tuttis if you don't want to be Divisi in every single part. And they will be in situ in the room. Now, quickly talking about the mic positions, I don't have them all downloaded here. You can see I've already got quite a few. I've just been using the close and the tree for this demo so far, but you've got a really extensive range of mic positions. And with the library, you get actual mixes from Benjamin Wallfisch, so you can really hear the sound that he intended when making this library. As I said, I don't have them all downloaded. That was purely because I am perilously low on space on my SSD. But you've also got these really immersive Atmos mic positions. I'll just load one of them up now so you can hear it. So here are some of the down bow sustains again, just with a little bit of that Atmos mic. So just so you can hear a direct comparison, here are some of the sustains with a tutti section, and then I'm going to show you some sustains with the Divisi A and the Divisi B. Now Divisi A. And Divisi B. So a completely different set of players has actually recorded the 7 players for Divisi A and the 7 players for Divisi B. So you do have a different tone quality. For me, the Divisi A in the first violins, actually you can tell that that includes the leader because it's got that slight bit more edge to the sound. whereas the Divisi B has that more ensemble sound. I really love that because, again, as someone who spent my life playing in orchestras, to me that kind of detail really brings realism. So here are the violas Divisi A. And Divisi B. And you'll notice in all of these sections that it tells you exactly how many players are in each section. So the string section sizes are 14, 12, 10, 10, 6. That's a really big string orchestra. Here are the celli Divisi A. I'll do some of the up bows for you. I think you can really hear with this the difference between those down bows and up bows. That sharp attack that you get at the start with a down bow in the top dynamic layer versus with an up bow, a much softer articulation even at the same dynamic layer. So that's the kind of thing you might want to think about when you're writing. If you want a really heavy attack from the whole string section, you probably want everyone doing down bows. And let's quickly hear the basses tutti. Really wide dynamic range there. Here are some of the up bows. Again, I really like it on the long notes that you can really hear the bow changes within the sustained sound. So just on a down bow sustain. You can hear those little bow changes as the individual players in the section have to rebow. So even though I wasn't changing the dynamic control at all, then you don't get a completely static sound. All right, that's it from me for today on Benjamin Wallfisch Strings. Thanks so much for watching, and please do leave any questions in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer. I'm sorry I didn't get to cover absolutely everything today, but there is such a huge amount in this string library. I could have really gone on for much longer, so for the sake of brevity, I hope that you got what you needed out of it. And if you like this, then subscribe to my channel. I do these walkthroughs from time to time, and you'll also see my composing content on here. If not, then follow me on Instagram. A lot more of my content ends up over there. Thanks for watching.